Greetings, everybody. Salutations. It is Tuesday, July 15th. We are here for another episode of the Motor Stardom Show. Excited about tonight. We are well into the summer. We're almost into what we can consider fall. We just had another road course weekend. We finally get to go back to the Oval this weekend, a classic one, the Monster Mile at Dover. Very excited about that, and another SVG victory as well this weekend that we will talk about. So let's bring in the gang: Mason Maggio, Stephen Malazzi, and Densey Energy. Please, if you have not used it, use code Maggio15. At some point, maybe next year, we get real comfortable with them. We can make it Magoo15. But until then, it is Maggio15. Use it. We love Densey. Shout out our great sponsors. We got some amazing things coming, hopefully in Daytona as well in August. But we will get to that at a further date. So for now, how are we doing, boys?
Doing good now that I got my can I money spread it? Hold up.
Damn, bro.
Yeah, we money spreading the Densey Energy patches. I'm doing good. Working pretty hard behind the scenes, trying to get more stuff put together between the show and then my own racing stuff. But no, it's been good. Had a birthday about a week ago, so that was cool. And trying to live life, man. We're here with another episode. What more could you ask for? Now we got Stephen J. Malaz. He's got some pretty good news to share, I heard. So I'll let him take over from there.
Oh boy.
I do. What am I talking about?
Oh, I thought we clarified that.
What are we talking about, Maggio? You can't just leave me hanging.
I'm gonna leave you hanging.
What's the news? We're talking about silly season this episode.
Oh, are you talking about what I tweeted about like a couple hours ago?
Yes, of course. What else would I be talking about?
Well, we haven't really talked about that on the show, so I was trying to think of like, oh my God, did I miss my own racing announcement? Like, did something come out? No. Yeah, my dad was in the ICU for a while there. I think it's pretty widely known that he's had a bout with cancer for the past 9 years or so. They put him on a new clinical drug that killed everyone, and it was it was pretty aggressive. So he was in the hospital for a long time there. He's pretty much been there since the beginning of June, and today he finally got moved out of the intensive care oncology unit at UPenn and has moved into a long-term rehab facility. He actually was just texting me right before we started, and he said he just had dinner, pork roast, potatoes, and Brussels sprouts. So good news on that front for old Papa Malaz, and yeah, good stuff. Good shout, Maggio. Good shout.
We love to hear it, man. That's awesome.
We love to hear it. We know it's been a huge fight, and he has been fighting for forever, practically. But he's certainly one of the strongest men we know and the strongest men you know. So definitely congratulations to him. Congratulations to Malaz's family, and the vibes are high over there in PA, which I will be visiting this weekend. Very excited about that. My first time in Pennsylvania. But any suggestions for me, Stephen? I'll be in Pittsburgh Friday night.
No. I'm not a Pittsburgh
Pirates
guy.
game, big Pirates game Friday.
I do.
Night.
Oh, I will say PNC Park is my favorite ballpark in the entire country. So, super surreal views out there. You'll have a good time. There's also gondolas in Pittsburgh, which if you've never ridden a gondola before, give that a shot. That's a good time too. It's a good shot.
Okay. I don't know what that means, but
you don't know what a gondola. Look up what a gondola is, man. Cable car, the things that go up and down mountains. Yeah, crazy. Pittsburgh's like in the middle of a. Just go to Pittsburgh, man. You'll figure it out.
I'm going. Flying in there Friday afternoon, so really excited. But let's get talking about some stock car racing. We're going to talk about some silly season stuff, have some fun on the show tonight. But before we get there, let's have a chance. I know we don't super often to recap, not the most eventful race of all time, but a race at Sonoma where Shane Van Gisbergen has now collected his third road course victory, third victory overall of the season. He is third in the playoff standings for NASCAR. It's the third most playoff points going into the postseason. Took that Red Bull car to victory lane at Sonoma in wine country. Couldn't quite get the rugby ball over to the crowd, but probably because he was tired as hell from whooping the field. So, is this the last SVG win we see of the season, or do you think we see more, y'all?
I see at least one more on the trajectory. I feel like SVG is really kind of coming to his own, not just on the road courses, but I honestly feel too that he's like progressively getting better on ovals. And we're at that point in the year where we're going to start returning to a lot of places. And I think now that he's got the seat time at some of these racetracks and is going to be able to go back and kind of use the notes that he had learned, I think that's just going to make him even better. And I think he's going to get, very far in the playoffs. Time will tell. I don't know.
Don't tell me, Maggio. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's not beat around the bush here and act like this isn't a travesty of the playoffs. Like, let's not act like, by the way, different outrage about Harrison Burton last year. And I was as upset then as I am now. SVG is actually worse than Harrison Burton was on ovals. Do you know what SVG's best finish on an oval is this year?
I think it's like 18th.
It's 14th. It's actually not that bad. 14th at Charlotte. And what's crazy, and this is, by the way, I don't want to degrade SVG at all. What he has done is incredible. And I actually think him being in the Cup Series is exactly what he needs for development because Xfinity and Cup cars are so different. There's no point in wasting time in Xfinity when you very clearly are one of the most talented race car drivers in the world. He's not a championship contender. He's not. He's not going to survive. He had more points than Cody Ware and Cole Custer on ovals this year. And that is it. And to me, that's not a car I want to. This is not a road course racing series. This is an oval racing series with some road courses thrown in. And I feel very similarly about road courses as I do super speedways, which is 4 of each is enough. I don't really need to see 6. I don't want to see 6. We've designed, I've said it 1,000 times on this show, we've designed a car for 1.5 miles. Run 1.5 miles if that's what you're going to do. So while I don't disagree with you, Maggio, he might make it through, he shouldn't, and it should show a fundamental flaw in what is the playoff format. He was 34th or 33rd in points before we went into this 3 out of 5 road course stretch. And by the way, in no means do I want this to be, I think SVG shouldn't be in Cup. I think SVG shouldn't be. SVG is one of the best race car drivers in the world. He came over here and won in his debut race in a car he has never driven before. He will be, if he continues to develop his oval game, will be a championship contender at some point on road course merit alone. And by the way, let's not even get started with the fact that he is not even in a top-tier program, right? He is on, at best, what is probably the 5th best team in Cup, and he is destroying people on road courses. So imagine if you gave him a Joe Gibbs racing car. He'd go out there and put some belt to ass even more than he already is. That's not, to the great Trackhouse. It's just saying he could be a championship contender at some point down the line. I don't want his win to get swallowed up in the playoff conversation. It is just simply a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah. I mean, I will say I do agree with some of your points, Steven. I guess what I meant by my playoff run is he's not going to be a championship contender, right? This is his very first full-time season in Cup. But I think with some of the road courses that we have coming up, and like I said, with the fact that we're returning to a lot of the racetracks as well, that he had gone to earlier in the year, I think he can make it for at least the next round. But no, I mean, but I also think with the way our playoff system is, I think that's what creates the excitement, is because you just never know who's going to take that next spot in the playoffs. And SVG has proven that, going from bottom 30 to now up to third in the playoff and standings. While there's pros and cons to it, right? Everybody's got their opinion. We can go on and on about it, right? But I do think that is the uniqueness that the format brings to the table, is you just never know who's going to jump into that equation. Again, there's pros and cons to it, but I think it's unique in its own way. But RJ, I know you got something to say, so I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been mixed on it. I think certainly, comparing SVG and Harrison Burton, like Harrison Burton's win last year at Daytona, I mean, that team was terrible. I mean, they sucked. I mean, Harrison Burton could not enter that car into any equation at whatever track, right? Only super speedways. What were you going to say?
But that team was higher in points than SVG was.
Yes.
That team was higher in points at Daytona when they won than SVG was when he won. That's all I'm getting at.
I think the dynamic here is that we know, or we expect that SVG is still going to be much better in this second half than he is the first half. We saw it in Xfinity Series last year. I think as he becomes accustomed to these cars, nonetheless, regardless, I think either way, yes, we have a sub 30th place car that won a race and entered himself into the playoffs. Now, I think my opinion's different if the playoffs was still like 12, right? Now that it's 16, it's almost like, well, you might just, we're just letting everybody in at this point. The cut line battle is very entertaining, but when I look at the cut line right now, it's like, is Ryan Preece going to go out there and win a title? Is Carson Hocevar going to go out there win a title? Maybe. I know the cut line's kind of bounced all around all the time, but it's certainly, I think I'm just more of the point where I've accepted the fact that, yes, we are playing into entertainment. And it's like, we're probably never going to go back. I don't see NASCAR going away from a win and in thing. Now, could they change the playoffs down the road? I can see it, certainly, especially with the drawback from last year with the whole Logano situation and everything. And we've heard things circling around that they're looking at it and they may change it in years to come. But I don't see the win and in ever going away. I see it always being a thing now that they've done it. It's almost the same thing with stages. Now that they've done it, I just can't see a world where they take it away, no matter how I and we feel about it.
It's funny that you say that. I have two. I'll respond to. I got one for each thing. One is about the playoffs. I think if there's ever a year that's a contestant to get rid of the playoffs, it's this one. I did not realize how bad it was. That I think we have 3 cars right now who are outside the top 20 in points who are locked into the playoffs.
Is Josh Berry one of them? Because I know they've had kind of a skid.
I'm pretty sure it's Cindric, Berry, and SVG are all outside the top 20.
Cindric's skidded lately, and so is Berry. The whole Penske organization is
sliding. Yeah. Well, Blaney might actually have the fastest car this year. Yeah. He's just had so many DNFs, it's impossible to recover. So I don't know if that's, and especially with SVG by the way, I saw some people not like his radio energy. I love it. I think it's exactly what NASCAR needs. We can touch on that in a minute. I think SVG being so high up in the playoff standings, I think there being 3 cars who are really playoff. And like you could say, oh, well, would Ryan Preece be contending for a title? I don't know. Ryan Preece might actually make his way through the first round of the playoffs if he made it. I think SVG, even with these playoff points, has no chance. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. I just don't think so. The second thing I'll respond to is I actually like stage racing. I said it. In everything but road courses. And I also am not a fan of it as much in trucks and Xfinity because the races are so short. I think in Cup, it is perfectly fine at every track except for road courses. Maybe even end with a caveat super speedways because it makes the whole Daytona Talladega fuel saving thing possible. And you wouldn't fuel save or at least as much if you didn't know when there was a caution coming out. But at road courses, it is fucking miserable. It is awful to watch. We go in, and it happens every freaking road course race where we get a caution with like 3 to go in the stage, and they're just like, yeah, wrap it up. We're done. We're going to call this the stage break. Then before you know it, we've run 8 laps or 9 laps at a 2+ mile course under caution, and it's 30 minutes since the last time we saw green flag racing. I don't have that kind of attention span. I don't know if you guys do. I think there needs to be, and everybody freaked out because the one time they did it, we went caution-free at the Indy Road course. McDowell just led every freaking lap. But in reality, I would rather watch that than I would sit for 30 minutes and not have any racing at all.
I mean, there's pros and cons to it. I guess it's just it all depends, all right? It all depends on the situation. It all depends on how the race flows. There's times where I feel like the stage cautions have provided, at least for the road courses, speaking on that, have provided some really fantastic restarts that will keep you on the edge of your seat. That's something that I feel like isn't talked about, is because it bunches everybody up. It gives us an opportunity to see who's going to capitalize on track position and so forth on these restarts. Because if we've learned anything with this car, is that track position matters, because they are more equal than what people realize. But I don't know. I've got pros and cons. I feel like for a place like Chicago, it was good. Sonoma, meh, didn't necessarily need them. Sonoma's kind of just, a momentum race, in my opinion. Whoever has the most momentum is going to be out in front and capitalize on it. But I felt like for Chicago, it was fine. Watkins Glen, I feel like they're fine. I guess it all just depends on how the race flows, right? But then again, NASCAR can't predict how good the racing product is going to be and if we need or don't need the stage breaks, at least for the road courses. But I'm personally a fan of the stages, but there are times where I'm like, okay, well, we kind of need it because this race isn't as entertaining as it needs to be, or there's not enough side-by-side action enough to keep you on the edge of your seat. We're just watching cars go in circles. But I know everybody's got mixed opinions on it. I don't necessarily have one. I'm just kind of giving some theories, a little bit more of like a perspective on what you're saying necessarily, Steven, to an extent. Kind of agreeing to disagree in some aspects.
Yeah, I can see the Xfinity and trucks not having stages. I like that, being the races are so short, and most of the time it's very rare we go caution free in those races anyways. And I feel like, it makes me feel on the side of the opposition of the stages when we have so many cautions anyways. And it's like, if we know, we are probably 95% sure that these Xfinity and truck races are going to have natural cautions, right? What's the point of us throwing stages, is so we can have cautions and restarts and fun. And, nothing's more electrifying than either A, like Steven said, caution coming out right before the end of the stage, and then we pace around for 12 years, right? Or B, the caution comes out right before the stage, so we do a one-lap shootout and then wreck the field doing it at whatever track it may be. But yeah, I think, like I said, I think we're way past the point of stages ever being removed. I think maybe the road courses would be the only discussion. And I know Steven really enjoyed that Indy road course race, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that guy up front too.
Yeah. Just so you know, Malazzi Stats has done some numbers here just to make sure. If you subtract, so SVG average finish right now in the Cup Series, 21.9, very middle of the pack, in between Justin Haley, Todd Gilliland, Suarez, and Keselowski. Okay, and you're like, that's not that bad. You take out the 4 road courses this year, COTA, Mexico, Chicago, Sonoma, that average finish goes down to 26.88, which is the lowest in the Cup Series outside of Cody Ware. And that is almost 2 entire spots behind Riley Herbst, who we will all acknowledge has had a miserable rookie season in the Cup Series.
We will be talking about him tonight.
Yes. So, like I said, I feel like and this is really funny because I think I've said it many times. I think SVG is probably one of the most talented race car drivers in the world. I think he can hop at anything and drive the wheels off it. But in terms of determining and crowning a legitimate champion, right? If SVG went out and finished 30th in 30 out of the 36 races, right, and we put a road course in the round of 16, a road course in the round of 12, a road course in the round of 8, and a road course of the championship race, would you feel legit crowning SVG as your champion? No, not even. No one would remotely feel that way. And I just think that it's silly to then take an opportunity away from a guy who might, because we're at the point where somebody who could probably win a race, a Chris Buescher or a Bubba Wallace, might not make the playoffs because of the guys we're letting in. That's when I have a problem about it. We saw it last year. Did Keselowski win Darlington last year? Am I making that up?
He did, yeah.
Right? Like, what if Kes had made the playoffs? Well, maybe he would have gone to the round of 8, and we don't know what we would have seen. It's just the premise of I'm fine with making Game 7 moments, with fabricating Game 7 moments. I'm not fine with delegitimizing the entire thing, which some would argue we've already done by instituting a playoffs, but I don't think it needs to be done further than what we've already decided to do. That's my answer. Bada bing, bada boom, ding dong, bling bong, baby.
Yep. Well said, especially the last part. So let's get into the nitty gritty, the juicy stuff. I basically have, I think it's 12. We have a good solid crop of drivers right here that are either A, already confirmed free agents next year out of a ride, B, believed free agents. NASCAR contracts aren't 100% public, which they should be, in my opinion, if we're going to legitimize ourselves. But we believe these guys are free agents or Xfinity drivers that are all on a year-by-year basis, possibly on the brim of moving up. So the first driver that we will discuss here and where we believe that he may end up next year has been the one that has been most recent in the waves here. Daniel Suarez announced that he will not be returning to Trackhouse Racing. They say it's a mutual kind of thing where, to me, Trackhouse, I believe, was ready to move on from Daniel Suarez, and Daniel Suarez was kind of like, well, me too. I'm out. Things have been brewing really quickly over the last few weeks, where Suarez came out and said he felt like he wasn't being heard, felt like he wasn't as important, and, crazy to think that of what, we heard from them and their partnership, over a year ago. And also had a run in with Ross Chastain this weekend at Sonoma and said he was going to get him back if they don't talk about it this week after the race. So nonetheless, Daniel Suarez is free agent next year. Where do we think he will end up?
It's tough to say. I mean, I hate to say it, but I think a lot of people have saw it coming. Outside of the Atlanta win last year, he fell very much under the radar outside of that. And then even this year, I feel like he kind of fell under the radar with the exception of the hype around Mexico, obviously with that being his home race. A lot of pressure was put on him there, and he wasn't really in the picture. I mean, it's tough, right? Especially when you've got, like we were talking about, SVG, who's now won, 3 road course races, and we can see him winning 1 or 2 more races. Ross Chastain always seems to find himself in the picture. Won the Coke 600 earlier this year. I mean, and then you got Daniel, who doesn't really have anything to back that up, and even compare to his teammates. So I mean, it's a tough situation. And then with Connor Zilisch, who is obviously won Sonoma in the Xfinity race this past weekend and getting some Cup opportunities, spontaneously throughout the course of the year. I figured, at least my own opinion, just from seeing it from an outsider's perspective, that it was going to be a matter of time before they said, hey, we need to put, Connor in the car, and Connor's done a good job in his Cup races too. And that's the other thing that I think probably put a little bit more pressure on Trackhouse to move him up to the next level. And I 100% him seeing taking that seat next year. But to answer your question, RJ, on where Daniel could be, I think he could definitely be, somewhere in the Xfinity series. I feel like Daniel does bring value with his Cup experience. Obviously won the Mexico Xfinity race with Junior Motorsports. So I could definitely see him ending up with an Xfinity series team. It's just a matter of, how competitive and what's available. I think that's going to be the biggest thing for him. I think same thing on the truck side. Could that be a route for him? Maybe, but I see Xfinity being the biggest route. I would say something in the Cup realm as well, but the problem is I just don't know how many open seats are going to be in the Cup Series that are going to, be up to par to where Daniel could compete at the level that he's been at the last couple of years. I don't think there would be an opportunity that could match that. So I could see him going back to Xfinity, kind of going the Harrison Burton route almost. But Steven, I'll turn it over to you. I think I've said my fair share.
Well, I actually think it's really funny, and I'm very rarely a defender on this show. I feel like I'm usually pretty aggressive in my criticism of a lot of people. I don't know. I don't know that Daniel Suarez has ever. Okay, maybe Joe Gibbs. I don't know that the 99 car has ever really been given a fair swing at it, right? We compare him to Ross Chastain, but really, Ross only has, 3 or 4 wins in his tenure at Trackhouse? Suarez still has 2, right? Ross missed the playoffs last year, did he not?
He did, yeah. Now that I'm looking back,
he missed the playoffs and finished 19th or 20th in points, like pretty far down the running order.
It was a rough year, yeah.
Yeah, they had a similar average finish, and Suarez made the round of 12. Did he? I mean, like, right? Like, what are we? It's kind of weird to me that he gets so much when he is not on an he's not the number 1 Chevy program. He is not the number 1 driver on his own team. I think pretty much anyone would agree to that. And some may argue at this specific moment, he's number 3. I don't really know what else you expect for him. We've seen the number 4 car go out there, which would be Zilly. And Suarez does outrun Zilich by a pretty fair margin. Granted, Zilich is a rookie on the Trackhouse 4 program, but you look at it, I don't really know what else Suarez has been expected to do. He wins a race every year or every couple of years. He runs mid-pack. He's in a mid-pack race car. We saw what he can do when he goes out there in good equipment in Mexico. He was the 3rd best car all day and won the friggin' race. So I think he'll probably find a home in the Xfinity Series. I'm going to go as far as to say it might even be with Junior, stay in the Chevy camp. But yeah, that's where my head's at. And I think Suarez is a very talented race car driver who's probably got big things coming if he goes down to a top tier program in one of the lower divisions.
Yeah, my sheet here says, as my prediction, is that Suarez will end up with Junior Motorsports next year. I think that's his most logical place where he can stay in a very competitive ride. We don't know exactly what that team's going to look like next year. Obviously, with this move, Connor Zilich will open a spot at Trackhouse, but we don't know how many, or at Junior Motorsports, we don't know how many other moves or how many spots will be opened. But I think that's a logical spot for him, get an Xfinity deal full-time in a competitive car, and then be a guy that kind of runs the occasional cup race, runs on a part-time schedule, runs the 500, runs, at Mexico, say we do return next year. But I think this is a move that needed to happen because I think they're not looking at it as a Daniel Suarez versus the free agent pool move, more of a Daniel Suarez versus Connor Zilich. Who are we going to take here, right? Trackhouse made that decision last year. It was Zane Smith or Shane Van Gisbergen. Are we going to get rid of Zane Smith or are we going to bring SVG in here? They brought SVG in, kicked Zane Smith to the curb. And now this year they're faced with Connor Zilich or Daniel Suarez. They kicked Daniel Suarez to the curb. And last year was definitely a very struggle, probably the biggest struggle for Trackhouse. I don't know exactly where Suarez would have ended up in points if he didn't win that Atlanta race. I don't know if it would have been in the playoffs. Because we know after the year they just seed it based on where you were in the playoffs. But nonetheless, looking at things this year, and obviously this was a midseason move. We know Suarez is sitting 29th in the standings. Ross Chastain's top 10, and Shane Van Gisbergen, whether you like it or not, he's grabbing them checkered flags, and that was their whole goal, right? If the playoff system wasn't this way, and he's also SVG going from bottom 30. In the standings, just by winning a race, getting in the playoffs, it's millions of dollars that they get to profit off of just being top 16 guaranteed at the end of the year. So I think this is a thing where in the Cup Series, and I say this for all the teams, and I'll probably say this a lot tonight, is it's too competitive of a Cup Series to not put a game changer in your race car if you have the opportunity. So a lot of these teams and drivers we're going to talk about tonight, they need to be kicked to the curb. And that's just the facts. And, a guy like Harrison Burton, I think, is in a great spot because he's now getting to reinvent himself in the Xfinity Series, doing a phenomenal job for AM Racing, by the way. But moving up to Wood Brothers Racing was just not a fit for him that quickly. And I think Daniel Suarez just wasn't going to be a game changer, a checkered flag chaser in that Trackhouse car. But I do think putting him in a great opportunity in a Junior Motorsports car, hopefully with where he ends up next year, will, change some things around. And, I think he'll be back in the Cup Series at one point if he goes to Xfinity. But, we'll see how that all pans out. I think he's easily a championship contender if he's down at JRM.
He is getting old. He is 30. I mean, 33 is not old, but, bringing in new talent all the time. The Cup Series is getting younger every year, right? 33 is a vet. You're on the older side of drivers in the Cup Series, so I'm actually not sure that we get another opportunity with all the young talent coming through the ranks. I think people will be surprised next year if Zilich goes out and runs similarly to the way Suarez runs. I don't know that Zilich will hop in that car and do better than Daniel did this year. I really don't. I think it'll be a good gauge of where the equipment's at to see what happens. But yeah. And I also, real quick on the Zane Smith SVG thing, I think if the playoffs didn't exist, Trackhouse would have stuck with Zane Smith.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah.
Because the point you made about the money is so true, right? These teams get huge bonuses for making the playoffs, and it's because of how much higher up in the standings they finish by virtue. I mean, I'm shocked we don't see a couple more teams just throwing a road course when you're in there and hoping to luck into one. But that's it. On to the next one. What do we got, RJ?
Well, let's move on. The next one is Riley Herbst driving for 2311 Racing this year. He currently sits a whopping 35th in points in the number 45 car.
I looked it up. He's got a multi-year contract.
Well, yes. Now, the only reason we're going to talk about this is just because what I feel needs to happen. Yes, he is in a multi-year deal. Technically, he is contracted for next year. We've heard all the stuff about the charter, this, that, well, maybe lack thereof, I guess, for 2311. But I think, personally, there's always a possibility contracts can be voided out. And in my opinion, with everything that's been going on with 2311 Racing, we don't know what the hell is the future. We've heard, 1 million tweets and articles about stuff going on in court. And maybe we need our lawyer here to explain more of it. But I think 2311, and no matter what happens with the charters, however many cars they field next year, if they're going to field 3 again next year, whether they're chartered or not, they got to make a move to put Corey Heim in this race car if they're going to quote unquote save their organization. I mean, it's just it's absolutely ridiculous that a 2311 race car, which should be top 10 in points, right, with talented drivers in their race cars, is 35th in the standings, and it stinks. And Riley Herbst is a solid race car driver, but again, he is not a game-changing race car driver, and he's not going to be. It took him a million years in Xfinity to find the groove and get there and get a checkered flag, which was great. Badass victory at the Brickyard, by the way. Amazing. And he did solid in that Xfinity Series race car, but he's a Brandon Jones kind of guy. And if this doesn't work out, and if or when he does get out of this race car, he's going to be back in the Xfinity Series for a while. I have Sam Hunt Racing down here if he wants to stay in Toyota. But in my opinion, 2311, you've held on to Corey Heim for far too long, kind of teasing him. I think if teams really start to get aggressive, more and more aggressive by kicking people to the curb and putting better, younger drivers in their race cars, somebody's going to grab Corey Heim. Somebody's going to give Corey an offer he can't turn down, where he will finally leave Toyota.
Maybe
100%.
Do you value Corey Heim at $25 or $30 million?
I mean,
do you if you're running a business and you have 2 drivers who are playoff contenders, okay? You've got 2 of them. And by the way, I'm not convinced that Corey Heim would bring that car to a top 10 finishing points either. I'm not convinced Corey Heim playoffs.
Probably not top 10, but I would definitely think top 15, 20. Top 20, something around that span.
Maybe top 20 and
anything's better than this.
I don't disagree with you. But you know what Corey Heim doesn't have? Monster Energy. Yes, a sponsorship deal worth tens of millions of dollars. And at the end of the day, when you're a third car for the organization, you probably got to bring some money in. And look, I am the biggest proponent of pay drivers have gone too far. Funnily enough, you compare it to the Brandon Jones, they're like the same archetype, just have been at different places at different times in their career.
Not horrible, but like Xfinity Series role players.
The way I define it is have enough money to stay in the race car long enough to become a good race car driver. That's what it is, right? Mm-hmm. You've got people who get in a race car and are talented. You've got people who get in a race car and aren't bad, and you get people who get in a race car and don't know what they're doing. the people who will get in a race car and are okay usually fizzle out unless they have the backing to support them for a long period of time, like Herbst, like Jones, enabling them to become something bigger than what they are. I don't think Herbst is going anywhere. Especially, I highly doubt 2311 is willing to make that move in the realm of uncertainty that they exist in right now, where the capital coming in is huge. From a legal standpoint, I have no idea what's going to happen. To me, it looks like 2311 and Front Row are running out of options. And there's a saying in the law and in life that, when you make your bed, you got to sleep in it. And that's kind of where these two teams are right now. They're at a point where they've gone down this rabbit hole. They've exhausted their options. The court system does not agree with them. And if they run out of options, they're probably going to have to accept that, A, they're going to have to walk back to NASCAR with their tail in between their legs and do whatever the hell they want them to do. Or B, they're going to race uncharted and lose all that money.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a lot of things that can and cannot happen. And a big part of that is Riley's deal with 2311, right? I mean, the charters, that's something that plays a big role, between money coming in and then on top of that being guaranteed into races. I don't think that's a problem in the Cup Series, don't get me wrong, but case scenario, I mean, we've seen it at the Daytona 500, for example. We've seen some good cars go home over stupid stuff like mechanical failures or wrecks. Like, if you're paying as much money as you need to pay to go run the Daytona 500 is on top of a full Cup Series schedule, and you potentially miss that dictates a lot of your year too. So, and there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't realize that came with that charter and came with that opportunity for Riley to go into that seat in the first place, that all kind of ride on the charter system. And if 2311 is going to have that charter. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough to say. I do agree with you, Steven. I feel like, could Riley stick it out, considering he does have that multi-year contract? Yes, but just like in any contract, there's always a way out, right? But you got to do it legally, of course. But I don't know. I mean, obviously Riley brings value with high-profile sponsorship, and obviously does have a little bit of a resume with those 2 wins in the Xfinity Series, and as well as the ARCA Series. But I don't know. I mean, I think it would really depend on how this beef between 2311 Front Row and NASCAR is going to dictate, and I think that's going to be for Herbst's team to decide. If not, I could see him going to a Joe Gibbs Racing in the Xfinity Series, try to stay in the Toyota pipeline for sure. Sam Hunt probably wouldn't be a bad option either, but at the same time, I think Riley would probably want to have the best of the best opportunity, right? I don't think, and this is no disrespect to Sam Hunt, but I don't think he'd want to go from, being, a race winning contending car like he was a couple of years ago to then running only 15th every week. I think he brings more than that, than what he would receive out of a Sam Hunt. But I could see him going to the Xfinity Series, maybe getting something put together on the truck side with Tricon, if he wants to stay in that Toyota pipeline. But yeah, it's tough to say. I can't really give a solid answer. I think a lot of it rides on this lawsuit.
Yeah, 1,000%. And we will certainly, as that, I mean, in the last few weeks, we've had some crazy developments. We will stick with lawyer Stephen Malazzi for more updates on that development. But with that, let's move to the next driver. He is currently in the Xfinity Series. Kind of an interesting one here. Not too much on him, obviously, as he just found a new team. But over the last few years, he has been in some Cup Series conversations, and that's Sam Mayer. He is currently at Haas Factory Team. Been doing pretty solid this year. Obviously, we know in the Xfinity Series, a lot of these deals are year-by-year basis. Kind of like Mason said, not a ton. We don't know what the Open Cup seats are going to look like. Personally, Short and simple, the only thing that I could see him doing, we know front row was a talk last year, but that's pretty much locked up for the future. As far as other Ford organizations, we don't know what's Rick Ware Racing going to do next year, right? They now have some new ownership. They want to expand to 3 teams, but for sure, hopefully 2 by next year. What will that look like? Could that be a spot for Sam Mayer? We know Cody Ware will be back in one of those cars next year. I think that would kind of be almost up to Sam Mayer. Do I want to go on Sundays for a up and rising team, or do I want to continue to try and chasing checkers on Saturday? But realistically, I don't really think he moves next year.
I don't think so either. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have been in the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series the last couple of years. I mean, you said it, RJ. Like, Sam is definitely one of them. Corey Heim is another one. I've heard several other guys, and I'm sure we probably got more coming up that are probably going to be on the same list. But again, it goes back to what is even going to be available. And I know guys like Sam, guys like Heim are ready to make that next step. But the problem is do you sacrifice the quality and the equipment to go run on Sunday? And that's something that some guys have made before, and that's kind of hurt them before. I mean, I feel like a prime example of that is a guy that's running, funny enough, Sam Hunt's car this weekend, and that's Ryan Truex. I feel like Ryan, obviously had a lot of competitive opportunities in the Xfinity Series before he went into Cup in, I think, 2013, 2014, one of those 2 years. And, wanted to get into Cup after a while, but sacrificed the quality and the equipment and wasn't running where he, wanted to be running. And then kind of had to rebuild his career in a sense because, let's face it, nobody's really looking at a bottom tier Cup driver and saying, oh man, he's done a really good job in, that kind of car. It's really, really, at least from a Cup Series owner's perspective, from a top prospect, because they're just going to look at Xfinity and Truck Series prospects instead. So that's something that, Ryan's had to build, and obviously he's done a great job of rebuilding that with winning 3 races since then, roughly 10 years later. But for somebody like Sam, I don't know. I see him going back to Haas Factory unless, I mean, is it a conversation that he has with Haas where he says, hey, I want to run a couple Cup races in a second open car? Is that a conversation that they're having? Which is that could very well happen. Could it happen with the Rick Ware? I think so, but I don't see it being a full-time gig. I see it being, let's sprinkle in 2 or 3 races here and there so we can get you some seat time, kind of similar to like Heim's deal and I guess Jesse Little's deal as well.
Oh yeah,
Jesse Love.
Shout out Jesse Little. Shout out Jesse Little. Got to officially meet him in person. First time at Chicago. He's been a supporter of my page for like 6 years, since the very beginning, since the trenches.
Tomato, I guess. I don't know.
Thanks for reminding me to shout out Jesse Little. Anyways, your turn, Steven.
Easy. He's not going anywhere. I don't think he's not going to Cup. He's staying in Xfinity. I think he's second in points. I don't think there's any ride for him to go to. The only question I had though is Rick Ware's charter that he owns, the second one, is with the 60 team right now, is it not?
Yeah, that's correct. It's a lease.
So, do we have Ryan Preece on this list?
We do.
Okay, I'll wait then. I'm good. I don't need to talk about Sam Mayer anymore. I think he's staying with us.
Charters could get wicked. Okay, let's move on to the next one then.
If it's Ryan Preece, I'm electric. Yeah, baby, look at that call. I'll roll right into it because I called this one. I don't know. That was it. I don't know.
Oh, thanks.
Right, cool. But I think it would be a damn shame for him to leave RFK, which is why he will stay for sure if the 2311 front row charters get repossessed. If he doesn't, I could see him being a candidate for the second new Rick Ware Racing team, whatever that team rebrands to. Because I think he'll probably want to stay in the Ford pipeline. And RFK and RWR have an alliance, if I'm not wrong.
Correct.
Right. So probably something there in the works. I think that's the most logical one. Although I hope they figure out a way to keep him in that 60 car. He's had a phenomenal year.
I would agree with what Elias Stevens says. I mean, this season for Priest has been a drastic improvement compared to his 2 years at Haas. And it showed. He's been consistently in the picture week in and week out. As far as putting it all together, whenever they're in a position to win, that's still kind of iffy. Still got to work on that. But other than that, they're consistent. They're at least on the bubble. They're in the conversations. I mean, it's hard to argue that Priest is definitely going to be a guy worth watching the rest of the year. I think he wins a race. In all honesty, I do. I see him staying. I see no reason why he would want to jump ship, at least on the surface, with the results that the team's gotten and what they've been able to do so far. I think Priest stays in the 60.
Yeah, I would certainly agree. I mean, we never know what's going to happen with these Chargers. It is so unpredictable, but I think, Keselowski, that ownership has to do everything they can to keep him in that 60 car. I mean, unbelievably impressed with him this year. 14th overall in the point standings, obviously on that cut line battle because we've had some people below him win races. So he's in that cut line battle trying to make it on points. I certainly don't think it's far-fetched to think that he wins a race this year, but just extremely impressed. I saw this, and a lot of people did, is his last shot in the Cup Series to make something happen. Having that stint with JTG before, not the greatest equipment, right? Moves to Haas after some truck and Xfinity time. And now, right, another new team, RFK, right? I can kind of consider this his last shot to really make something happen in the Cup Series. And he certainly has. He is knocked out of the park. They have been, and haven't fallen off either, right? They started off the year hot, and now we're in the summer months, and they are still hot, still really good, still putting together some great runs. So big shout out to him and that team. Another, this one, the one that we're going to move on to here, very interesting because I went into the year when Colleague Racing put Ty Dillon in the car, wasn't a fan of it. Thought there was a lot better you could have done here. Obviously, we know where the money is. But honestly, not mad at Ty Dillon's season this year. They've made waves, obviously, in the Final Four of the in-season tournament. So, big time here for Ty Dillon. But, from what I've heard and what I think will possibly happen, I feel like he does return back to Colleague Racing next year in the 10. I think that's just what they'll do. There's a lot of great drivers in the Chevy camp that, yes, where Colleague's at, probably do need more younger, better game changers in the race cars, but I think they're just going to roll with the veteran again next year. We know AJ Allmendinger is going to be back. I think they'll have the same two-car organization, but certainly Ty Dillon making at least a little waves this year. I mean, he's ahead of Justin Haley, Noah Gragson, Cole Custer, and Riley Herbst in the point standings. So, I mean, not a horrible year by any means, but I think he's made enough waves to where he'll be back in this car next year.
Well, and he's within 15 points of – I'm looking at it right now. I just pulled it up because I was curious. He's a point behind Gilliland, 10 behind Suarez, 11 behind Austin Dillon, and 13 behind Keselowski. And 11 points behind your brother, who is in, top tier equipment is.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We're not saying top tier, but obviously Austin Dillon's not going anywhere. I mean, we know why he's not going anywhere. Yeah, right. But Ty Dillon. I agree. I've been pretty impressed. 31st doesn't look that good on paper. Then, though, you have to think about something else here. Oh, excuse me. I had 5 guys for here. It's not sitting well. You have to think about something else here. Where is AJ Allmendinger in points?
Top 20, I believe, still. Yeah, he's
16.
Back in the cut. Yeah.
So when you think about that, is Ty Dillon really having a good year in the number 2 car? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. I think he has done well enough and generated enough PR that he deserves another year on the ride for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Ty has been – honestly, I've been fairly impressed with him, all things considered. It sounds crazy, right, on the surface, but I just look at what he's been doing in the past, like with his stint at Spire, with his stint at Legacy, where he was never in the conversations, right? This year he is, And like he's been what I like to call like quietly consistent, and I feel like for the second colleague car, it's where they need to be realistically. Colleagues Cup program is not a Hendrick or not near as good. If we're being constructively criticizing, right? I don't think they're up to par to where they're going to be trying to win races week in and week out. I think they're still in the development stages. I think they're still at the point where they just need to keep growing. And Ty and AJ both are the perfect candidates for that because they both have Cup experience. They both have enough knowledge to give to colleague that they can continue to take a step each time. Like you said, 31st doesn't sound good on paper, but when you look at where that team is at, all things considered, I don't know what else you would really expect. I mean, but I feel like he would go back. I believe it. I don't really see him going anywhere. I think Ty has kind of found a home at colleague, and I think that's something that he's been searching for the past couple of years and hasn't really found. But I think he stays.
Yeah, I don't think the colleague program, I don't think you're giving them enough credit, if I'm honest with you. Here's why. AJ Allmendinger is in front of, and I don't actually know, he might be now behind Kyle Busch. They're pretty close to each other. If he's in front of Kyle Busch, which they flip-flopped a few times.
Yeah, he's behind.
Is it one spot? Are they 50?
Yeah, one spot.
Well, let's say, for my argument's sake, because I don't like that fact, let's say that he was still in front of Kyle Busch. He would be beating both. If he passes Kyle Busch, he's beating all of RCR, all of Spire, all of Front Row, Haas, Rick Ware, Legacy, right? He's beating 6 full programs. And then he's got, and the Wood Brothers, 7 full programs. And then he's beating a Gibbs car. Like, he's doing phenomenal stuff in that equipment. So I think at some point you have to start asking, well, how good is that equipment? It's clearly good enough to run up inside the top 15 and be a playoff contender. So, again, obviously there's always a big step from the best car in a camp, unless you're at Hendrick Motorsports, and the second best car in the camp, or like Joe Gibbs. But it is a question that I've been asking because I also found myself at multiple points in the season saying, wow, Ty Dillon's doing pretty well. But in practicality, is that the truth? I don't know. So I'm on team give him another year. Next driver, baby. What do we got?
Well, next driver is, if I was in charge of colleague racing and I had to look at the Chevrolet crop of drivers I could bring in, this is honestly the guy that I'm probably bringing into my organization, and I think he needs to move up to the Cup Series sometime soon, and that's Austin Hill, who, is one of Xfinity Series' biggest personalities. The guy is also big. He's a very tall guy. But has kind of established himself as a very great contender, right? At first, he was seen as a super speedway merchant, guy that could only win the super speedways, and he sure dogs people on the super speedways, that's for sure. But he's also up there at these mile and a half, these short tracks, and has really lately solidified himself as a pretty good road racer. Really good on these road courses. Scored top 10 in the Cup Series for RCR. So obviously, we could talk all day about who needs to be in that 3 car for RCR, and it's probably anybody but Austin Dillon in that stable. And Richard Childress is only hurting his organization by keeping him in that race car, by not giving Kyle Busch an actual solid teammate. That's just my opinion. But I think Austin Hill would be a perfect guy to, of course, put in that 3 car. But if colleague racing were to move on from Ty Dillon and they need somebody in the Chevy stable, I think getting Austin Dillon in a Cup Series car soon, especially at Chevrolet, would be something I'm not opposed to. Obviously, he's only getting older, one of the older guys that's regular in the Xfinity Series compared to all the youngsters. And I think he's gotten enough Cup experience in these part-time starts where I would love to see him in a full year and see what he could do. And honestly, could be one of those guys that if he's in a decent car, pulls an SVG and just wins a random race and makes playoffs for you. I don't know. I know Steven wouldn't want to see that.
Are you smoking crack? You did not just compare Austin Hill to SVG.
No, I'm saying being
no. Stop it. Stop.
You're comparing Harrison Burton to SVG. That's what I'm saying.
Harrison Burton was higher in points than SVG. They're different. Whoa. Well, SVG, I said this, there's a difference between SVG and Harrison Burton. SVG is legitimately winning all of his races. Harrison Burton won a plate race in a Penske car. By chance, got lucky, whatever. We don't need to get into that right now. You did not just compare Austin Hill to SVG.
Well, I'm saying if he was in the Colleague 10 car, we're not expecting him to go out. He's not going to run.
How long have you been reporting on NASCAR? A long time?
You're just not getting what I'm saying.
Do you even pay attention to the sport? Are you watching it?
I'm going to be real.
You watch SVG dog the living poop out of the cup field, not once, not twice, but 3 times in a road course car, and you're telling me you think Austin Hill's going to pop in one of those bad boys and win a random race? No way. Get out of here.
He's going to dog people on the super speedways.
I'm going to dog your mother if you keep talking like that, RJ.
I'm going to be real. I'm kind of with Steven on this. I don't.
Thank you.
Listen, I just don't. Should Austin Hill be in a position for a cup ride? I don't know. I think so. I feel like he's improved and has started to become like that overall race car driver that can contend. But at the same time, again, going back to the Mayer and the Heim and even the Jesse Love comment, what competitive car is going to be available and who would capitalize on it? But and going back to like statistics and where he would run, I don't see him. I don't know. I don't look at him in the same sense that I look at Corey Heim, where I say that guy can wheel and be put in a situation and make the most of it. But I don't see that with Austin Hill. I see Austin Hill as a guy that needs a couple years to get his feet wet, to learn. Then he starts excelling and starts becoming better. That's just what I've seen between watching him for years in the Truck Series, now in the Xfinity Series for the last, 4 years now, 5 years. And I feel like it'd kind of be the same deal in Cup. I don't see him having a whole lot of success if he were to jump in a Cup ride full time. I think it would really be a big learning year or two before he would really be able to hit the ground running. But I don't know. I think he's in a good spot at RCR in the Xfinity program. There's no doubt there that those guys have got it made over there. They've continued to get better each year. But at the same time, I don't see him getting a full-time Cup ride. I just don't. And then on top of that, I don't think Austin Hill also has a lot of enemies that are now in the Cup Series. So I don't think that would really relay over well. If he would get up there.
I have a bigger problem with all of this, which I can't believe nobody's addressed yet. First off, I don't think him having enemies would matter. People don't really care. I think Austin Hill is stuck as a career Xfinity guy, kind of like Al Geyer is at this point, because I don't think anybody can justify sending up Austin Hill and leaving Jesse Love in Xfinity. He's too young. Jesse Love has way more time to grow as a race car driver, has way more time to develop, has some good sponsorship backing. I don't really see I think he's 32. I don't see Austin Hill getting that opportunity. Not with the Cup Series and the direction it's going, where people are looking towards developing young talent in their rides. I don't see a path forward for him. I think he stays with RCR, and that's pretty much where he is.
Yeah, Unk still got it though.
Yeah,
Unk's got it. He's third in the Xfinity Series point standings. I will say that. When we say he would have to learn the first few years, I feel like that goes for anybody, right? We would have said we're saying the same thing for Connor Zilic, right? We're not expecting him to go light the world on fire, but he is younger, and he's going to have a much more longer future in the sport. But like I said, I would certainly, if I'm going to pick Jesse Love or Austin Hill, I'm certainly going with Jesse Love for the trajectory of my Cup Series team. But for Colleague Racing, putting somebody in that 10 car, they certainly they haven't gone young. Let's just say Colleague Racing hasn't gone young. So now RCR should put anybody in that 3 car.
No, they should actually put nobody in the 3 car.
Well, yeah, they should
rebrand it back to the 29.
Right? Like what do we? I won't go down that rabbit hole.
All right, so I just talked about one guy I'd like to possibly put in a Cup car. Let's talk about one guy that I'm not going to lie. I'm going to say it. I don't know if you guys agree, but there's better people we could have in this ride.
It's funny.
Haley.
It's funny because I literally just had a conversation about this exact topic not too long ago. Justin Haley. It's crazy to think that we're talking about like such a downgrade of a year compared to like what he had last year driving for Rick. Funny enough, as we have him in that photo with the RWR suit, he was setting the world on fire in that car last year with Rick. And then now he goes over to Spire, which apparently was a better opportunity that he had to jump ship like only a couple races left in the season. And he's never even in the conversation anymore. I mean, it's been horrible. There's no other way to put it. I'm sorry to say it. I'm usually not this dramatic, and I'm more like, constructively criticizing. But I mean, it's just not been a good year, and I don't think that. I mean, Rodney Childers leaving only Spire on that 7 car, only a couple races in. That was a sign to me that it was not a great situation for some of these guys that were in it. So, and Rodney's a guy that is an absolute leader of a crew chief that has turned programs around and has done a really good job. Now you look at, where Justin Haley's at. I just don't see him being in a Spire car next year. It just doesn't make sense. So I would love, what would be a good fit for him? I don't know. I think I don't know what's out there. I don't know what's out there for Justin Haley, but all depends, I guess.
I don't know how Steven just made it. I know you can't see because you're on your phone, Mason, but he just made this meme really fast and sent it in the group chat. It was the LeBron meme of saying, I just had this conversation, Mason Maggio, of LeBron lying.
Yeah. Nice.
Flip it around.
Cue the graphic.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But yeah, I guess to answer the question though, I really don't know where Justin ends up. I don't see him being back in the 7 car. I feel like he's getting the Zane Smith treatment from last year, to where he wasn't the primary focus, and I think that was the difference that he had at RWR last year. Was he was the primary focus, and it showed in the results and where they were running. This year he's not, and I think we all know where the priority is at Spire, and I feel like Justin Haley is not getting the resources that he deserves in order to go run where he's truly capable of. So I don't see him being back in the 7 car next year. And then I guess that kind of leads into almost another question of where does he go? I don't have an answer for it.
I'm pretty sure that was the question to start, Mason, but I mean, I'm pretty sure the question was, where do we think these guys are going to go? But anyways, I'll answer. So for me, I think going back to Rick Ware Racing, especially if they want a 3rd charter, is a real possibility. I think that relationship is there. I think it's good. I also don't think it's a done deal that he's done at Spire. This is the first time Spire's really had 3 full-time trying to be super competitive cars, and with 3 drivers that they want to be super competitive all the time. And we've talked about it a lot, right? Like, there is something to be said about being in a 3 program, right? Like, and I'm not saying the 7 car is necessarily that. I'm saying that's how it's coming across right now, with the 77 having race winning speed, along with the 71 having race winning speed at numerous different points this season. It seems like the 7 has just been kind of forgot about. So I'm not so quick to kick him to the curb. If he does get kicked to the curb and you bring up somebody else from Chevy, irrespective of who that might be, maybe it's a Jesse Love kind of guy. Maybe it's I actually don't even know who else he would put in that ride. Maybe a Suarez, dark horse candidate for the 7. Maybe he goes to Rick Ware Racing. But I don't know that I see him going back down to Xfinity. Maybe someone with Colleague, or maybe I don't even know where he'd go down in Xfinity. So I would think he'd probably figure something out to try and stay in Cup. If not, I would say Colleague is his best bet in Xfinity.
Well, one thing we've learned from, Spire itself, especially with the move last year, but a lot of guys that are in the Xfinity Series pipeline is they're willing to switch manufacturers in the snap of a finger if it means they get what they think is better opportunity. So, I like hypothetically, if they contacted Sam Mayer, said, here you go, this is the ride we have for you, your second Xfinity points, let's give you this ride. I think it's not out of the question, but I think it gets kicked to the curb, and honestly, I think you have a result of the three drivers. If you put Carson Hocevar, Michael McDowell, and Justin Haley in front of me, who's the worst driver in that three, in my opinion? It's probably Justin Haley.
Yeah.
And so I think you're just getting a result of what that team is. The team has gotten significantly better, but I think he is the third best guy at that program, which is obviously not an A program yet, but still doing very solid to where Hocevar and McDowell can be up there and contend for wins. I look at his past history and say, has Haley ever been a race-winning kind of guy? He has won races, but boy, let's go looking back at all how those all happened. Some of the more crazier finishes in NASCAR history for sure. So a guy when Colleague was on top in the Xfinity Series still wasn't really setting the world on fire. Got to go to Colleague and Cup when they were kind of on a down track. Yes, had some great runs for Rick Ware last year, but now over there at Spire, not going super well. I think the Xfinity Series, to me, is the route for Justin Haley, whether it's a Chevrolet team, whether it's somewhere that's open, even if he swaps with Mayer at Haas, or it's a JRM car too, if Suarez doesn't go there. I think that's the route for Haley. I just couldn't believe the discourse last year that went on about Justin Haley replacing Alex Bowman at Hendrick Motorsports. I thought that was utterly hilarious because I was like, what the hell did Justin Haley do to get thrown in a conversation? Now I get it if that's the rumor. Oh, this is what's going to happen. I'm not saying it's right, or I'm not saying it's, should happen, but what the hell? People were literally justifiably saying that, man, Justin Haley at HMS, no disrespect, but no, Alex Bowman, I still think is miles better.
Is Bowman on this list too?
No, I think Bowman's got it set next year.
Bowman's in it for the long haul, in my opinion. I've always felt that way. He's always been kind of that quietly consistent driver.
Quietly consistent? What are we talking about, huh?
Saying roughly over if we're talking about the last couple of years.
What?
He's always been able to pull off a win or two and be able to sit in a decent spot in points.
Consistently mid, yeah. I mean, look.
Cry about it.
But who else?
I am. That's literally what I'm doing. Alec, he is closer to Brad Keselowski in points than he is his own teammates. What are we talking about? You can't. I'm sorry. You cannot be on the playoff bubble and be almost missing the playoffs while your teammates own the top three spots in points. Now, I will admit, Ally probably has a say, and my understanding is that Ally loves Alex Bowman, which is clearly a huge deal, and more than half of being a race car driver is being loved by sponsors. But I'm not saying that it's set in stone, because you have a couple years of this where, every year you're on the cut line and your teammates are dominating every single week. There will be conversations to be had.
For sure. I think so. And we will see how that all pans out with Alex Bowman. I think he stays, but hey, you never know.
This year, I think he's safe.
Yeah. For the future, though, I think it's certainly uncertain.
Yeah.
We'll see what
I wouldn't entirely disagree with that, but my point being is I feel like Alex is definitely one of those guys where he could pull off a win or two and be in a halfway decent spot. But then again, to Steven's point, how long do you continue to kind of settle for something like that? So I see it from all sides.
All right. So now we are going to move to not our Dempsey question of the week, but we allowed some people to provide their silly season predictions. There were a lot of them. Chose a few here to show, presented by Dempsey. We're going to throw up this first one. I don't know exactly what this is. That's Corey Heim replaced Riley Herbst next year in the 35 car, obviously in a perfect world. We already talked about that. Thank you, Not Kevin, though, for that question. Next one. Spire fielding an Xfinity team for Carruth, which is why they're downsizing trucks, Corey Heim to Sam Hunt Racing. Obviously, I would love to see Corey Heim race. Would have loved to see Corey Heim and Sam Hunt this year full-time. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, as we know where the money was and wasn't. But Spire being in the Xfinity Series would be interesting. It'd also be interesting to see what Raj does next year. From my understanding, is that he wouldn't go anywhere other than trucks unless he had a big opportunity with Chevrolet, HMS, Spire. I'm sure that would certainly provide something for him. But Raja does get to race this weekend. Shout out to him. Jordan Anderson racing at Dover.
Spire did run an Xfinity program for a few weeks for Hostafar, right?
A few races, yeah. A few races.
AKA a fifth junior motorsports car.
Yeah.
All right, next one. What do we got?
Next. All right, this one was fun, if it's the one I think I'm looking at. Yeah, so this guy gave us some truck series stuff to look at right here. We talk about some trucks. Brendan Queen raced full-time in 2026 for Spire. Stephen Parsons racing full-time for Young's Motorsports. Okay, interesting. Shout out Stephen Parsons. Matt Crafton will retire after the 2026 season. It's just funny to think about it. You think that guy will never retire. Luke Fenhouse to replace him. Good pick. You know, we love Luke Fenhouse. We also love Luke Baldwin here. Great guy. And then another one here, Max Reeves replacing Koryama Tricon. We know that Tricon spot's more than likely going to be open. That number 11 truck is going to be open. Who takes it? Max Reeves has certainly been one of Toyota's guys. Does he make the move up there? And then Greg Van Alst brings his team to trucks full-time in 2026. So I certainly like to talk about who, Toyota would put in that truck. I think that's an interesting conversation. Tricon's obviously the cream of the crop, or at least one of them, the cream of the crop of the truck series. Does Max Reeves get that opportunity?
Yeah. Hey, that cookout's going to pay out. So that's all I got to say there. But yeah, shout out Cookout. Now I'm hungry. I'm not even trying to promo that. But no, I mean, it's pretty.
Wait, before you go.
Yeah.
We're talking about Cookout. The night of your birthday, I actually puked up some walking tacos from Cookout. So
all right, I did not want to know that.
Yacked up some Cookout all over the place. So
yeah. But nobody. God.
Leave it up.
No, I will not be able to lock in for the rest of the show. But no, I mean, I feel like it's a good prediction. Obviously, Max does have the backing from Cookout. I think that's very obvious to people in the garage area and in the industry. I think Tricon could be a good route. Or would you take almost like the same approach as a William Sawalowicz, where it's, hey, I'm going to do a sprinkle in a couple truck races here and there, but I'm going to go Xfinity when the time is right for him to, when he's at the age where he can start making some truck starts, but just pretty much jump ship to Xfinity after a few starts to continue to be in the Gibbs pipeline. There are those two sides of it, but I could see them being like, hey, Max, we're going to put you in a truck for a full-time season and give you a few truck races. Once you turn, I think 16 or 17 is when you can start making truck starts, at least on the short tracks and road courses. So I could see that happen.
Yeah, I could see it. I think, we've certainly, you mentioned Sawalowicz, shout out to him as well, getting a third place run at Sonoma this week. It's been a really rough stretch for him. We've talked about the steps that he took in the development. We know it's rough when you start, but hopefully this is, the sense of an uptick for the rest of the season. Probably won't make the playoffs on points, but hey, he's in a Joe Gibbs racing car. Maybe he wins. Then the last one we'll throw up here is I know a lot has talked about Suarez possibly going to Spire. This guy says Ryan Waymert, I believe, if I pronounce it right. I don't know. Will unfortunately replace Ty Dillon in the 10 car. RWR jumped 2 full-time teams with Ware and LaJoy, which is interesting. We didn't talk about LaJoy in this show yet. High moving the Xfinity Series 2026. Kyle Busch's last year. Truck team will move to Dodge and Ram, which is the expectation with Dodge being in the Truck Series. What does anybody gather from this one? Any fun?
A lot of unknowns. I'll tell you that much. I've heard there's so much that's been going around with the Ram deal, as well as the path that Dodge wants to take to not only in the Truck Series, but to get up to Xfinity and the Cup Series. There's just a lot of speculation still about what it's going to look like. And how am I just realizing the water bottle? But anyway,
good job, actually. I'm
yeah, no, that should be our new co-host is the Dasani water bottle.
Is that a sponsor?
Is it Dasani?
That's
no,
not.
It
looked like it from an
already
angle.
not even plugging the sponsors correctly, Mason. Come on now.
They ain't sponsoring us. I don't care. But anyway.
Yeah, continue. I'm not moving this thing till the end of the show.
I don't know what the Ram deal is going to look like. There's a lot of speculation. I know several teams that have had conversations with Ram, and I won't give too much detail on it, but weren't entirely thrilled on what they had to hear when it came to resources and compared to the other three manufacturers that we have. So I don't know. That's going to be an interesting topic. And then I guess moving on to the RWR side of things, LaJoy, that's somebody that we really haven't talked about. And honestly, it's kind of been an interesting year for him. I mean, I feel like LaJoy is at that part of his life where he's just ready to kind of handpick a few races here and there and just have some fun. I don't see him being full-time again, unless he's got a very, very, very competitive opportunity, which obviously he has several truck races lined up with the rest of the year with Spire. But I don't see him being full-time again. So that'll be interesting. And then Heim's move to Xfinity, I don't see that happening. There's no other way to describe it. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. Damn, I'm like orange in the camera. Gotta turn my light on.
You also sound weird today. Are you using a different mic?
No, on the same one.
Oh, okay.
I sound weird or different?
Weird.
Ah, well, thank you for telling me at the end of the show.
You're welcome. I meant to tell you at the beginning, but then I got so sidetracked by Maju being like, Stephen Malazzi has news to share. And I'm like, news? What are we talking about? How would you news these nuts in your mouth, Mason? And then I remembered what he was talking about. So,
Bro doesn't even know his own news. That's crazy.
His own lore.
Bro doesn't even know his own lore.
There's other news that I was like, how would Mason Maggio know this? And why would he say it out loud? Which is why I was like a little shocked. Oh, God, I got a burp. Excuse me. So I was like, how would Maggio know about this stuff? But it wasn't that. It was the stuff that I very publicly tweeted about. So that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Sure did. We are happy for that. So definitely shout out to that news. Before we leave the show, some other shout outs to kind of roll through here just really quickly before we end. Rev Racing representing the Xfinity Series. LeVar Scott is making his debut this week for Alpha Prime Racing in the 45. Raja is back in the Xfinity Series in the 32. And we know Nick Sanchez, who just got his first career win racing in the 48, thought this was cool. Actually, haven't even posted this yet, but have put this up here on the show to give shout outs to them. Shout out to Connor Zilich and SVG for putting on an absolute masterclass at Sonoma in the Xfinity Series. That was a lot of fun to watch all the way literally until the final lap. Those cars are amazing. Those two drivers are amazing. That was a lot of fun. Put this up earlier, but shout out to Ryan Blaney for never having a filter on the radio as
always good personality.
People get upset. I think the original tweet was they get upset that he yells and then doesn't do anything about it. But then he tweeted something that was very reasonable, saying he's not just going to go and wreck other people's cars.
And that's how he gets it out. Yeah. I love it.
I respect that so much. I feel like I kind of carry that same idea because I think Ryan's also one of those guys that has worked on his own race cars and has worked with some smaller teams. People don't remember it, but he did drive for Tommy Baldwin Racing for his first couple of years in Xfinity as well as in the K&N series. So obviously Tommy Baldwin back in the day being a smaller organization and understanding, Tommy's perspective as well as the small team's perspective of the importance of bringing home a clean car and how hard everybody works on that stuff, whether you're a big team, small team. Shout out to him. That's class act right there.
Yeah, 1,000%. And then last but not least, shout out to the pit crew guys for fighting on pit road at Sonoma after Ty Gibbs, say what you want about what happened, but this was the exciting part. Dude walks over, stands on business. We get into a little shoving match here. Seemed to only be a shoving match. I think it was no fists because if you throw a fist in NASCAR, that's $75,000 out of your pocket allegedly. So
The analysts seem to think that was a perfectly reasonable move by Ty Gibbs. Now, Mason, you and I have done live pit stops. To me,
Did you guys see the pit crew angle, the pit crew guy's angle?
Yeah,
because the camera on his helmet.
Yes, I don't
swerve.
I don't think that was an okay move.
I don't think so. I mean,
but yes, so
I don't.
There's no one around him, right? There's nobody around him. He's ahead of Keselowski. Keselowski is close, but not that close. And you don't really need to be that. It's a pretty wide pit road at Sonoma. You don't need to be that close to the wall. So why is Ty Gibbs doing that except for to retaliate? Yeah. Now, I don't want to say anything too far out of line here, but Ty Gibbs does have a little bit of a
history.
Yeah, he's a little bitch. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's got a little bit of that whiny, my granddaddy's rich, and that's why I drive for a cup team type to him.
Another guest you can't have on.
Oh, fuck, you're still right. Sorry.
Come
on. Man, I really smoked. Well, actually, Maggio, some of the guests are Maggio's fault, but some of them are my fault. It's
a fine line. It's a fine line. I will say that. I'm not.
Yeah, there's like 3 in particular that I could think of that I would be okay with it. I don't know that Mason would be, but then there's like the other 70 that I've pissed off. And it's like, man, what? Like that's pretty unacceptable in my mind. NASCAR sees it another way, and clearly the sport as a whole is a little divided on it. So that means it couldn't have been that cut and dry. But imagine if he had actually hit that pit crew member on the 6, right?
Right.
Then would anybody think otherwise? No. So the odds are that it was just he happened to time it so well that he didn't hit anyone, I think makes the difference between it maybe being intentional and it not being intentional. If he had hit that guy, everybody would have thought it was intentional, which is why I stand by I think it probably was intentional.
Yeah, I got to agree with you, Steven. Like, I get it if we're at a small track where pit road is super tight, like, because it's tough to get into some of these pit boxes, like at a place like Martinsville, for example, where the pit boxes are just tiny, right? Yeah. But we're at a place like Sonoma, it's a wide pit road. There's plenty of time to get in the pit box. I don't know why Ty would just essentially drive through the pit box, but I mean, I get it cutting it at like a slight angle, but he wasn't doing that. He just drove straight through it. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't see the reason why he would need to do that other than the retaliation, like you said. But I also really there was no reason for it is the bottom line. So I don't know why he would even, play around with that in the first place.
Right.
Simple as that. There's no reason to.
Can't play with big race cars. Not at all. So, no. Any notes? Any other shout-outs from you guys before we sign off the air here? We spent an hour talking about silly season, and we got some juicy stuff out.
Do you guys want a blooming onion?
I am hungry.
All right, I'll get you guys.
Go for it. Not just a blooming onion. I want a steak.
Oh, I was thinking about that. I was like, what am I going to have after I go to the gym? Because I'm going to the gym right after this.
Oh, sure. Mason Maggio's going to the gym. Right. Maggio, I've seen you in person, man. The only thing, Jim, you look like you're hitting is lifting a cheeseburger up to your mouth, you fat fuck. Anyways.
Coming from the fat guy.
The Motor Stardom Show. We do this. Roll the music, baby. We're done. We're out. This has been the Motor Show.
No, whatever.
That's RJ. He gets no shorties. I'm the guy who probably offered you a blooming onion. We usually have some guests on. This week we decided to recap all the comings in the NASCAR world. Pause. All the happenings in the NASCAR world. And that's why we didn't have one. But next week we're probably back to it. Every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Motor Stardom Show. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next week. Shout out Amir Alexander.
I second that also. Shout out Amir Alexander. And Steven was wrong on that last part. I checked.
We love you, Amir.